Welcome to another episode of Junior Achievement of South Florida's Recipe for Success. Just as there are no two recipes that contain the exact same ingredients or measurements, there are no two success stories exactly the same. Recipe for Success features entrepreneurs, visionary leaders, and innovators of all ages who will share the ingredients that make them successful. Here's your host, Lori Salarulo, President and CEO of Junior Achievement of South Florida.
Hi everyone, we are here live on the set of Recipe for Success. We're here in the culinary kitchen at JA Huizinga Center. Messed that up and we're live. We are at the JA World Huizinga Center at the Lily and S. Wells Pavilion, and we're here in the Huizinga Catering Kitchen. Sorry about that. Every once in a while I get tongue-tied, even though I say it every day. And so, as you know, this show features leaders and executives and entrepreneurs and community leaders who talk about the ingredients to their success and the success of their companies. And so this week we have someone new to me, which I love. I love meeting new people.
Thank you.
And not new to JA, though, as she's a mom and her kids have come through JA World. Aliya Aaron, and Aliya has her master's in health sciences, her bachelor's, and she's an RN, and she's the CEO and founder of AMR Healthcare Consulting. And so we're going to talk about a little bit of all those things and what they mean and what you do and all that. But welcome to our show. We appreciate it. I always say welcome to our house. I love it here. It is an amazing facility.
It really is. I just saw the kids, so it's cute.
Yeah, it's great having kids around all day. So let's talk a little bit about, the first thing is I want to get to know a little bit too about your journey. And so maybe you can just share with us, maybe 2 or 3 highlights along the way to how you got here today, and then we'll talk about some of the specifics.
Sure. Well, my journey actually began a long time ago now. My journey began I'm from North Carolina, but born in actually Costa Rica. So if we start there, right? So I was born in Costa Rica. I was actually raised all my life in North Carolina from Charlotte and went to high school there and everything. I actually have 2 older brothers and 1 younger sister. We grew up really close. My father is an educator, so education has always been at the forefront. And my mom is just lovely. And so they raised us very close, right? And so I went to high school. I was a cheerleader.
You have a great outgoing personality, yes.
And so after high school, I actually said, you know what, I'm going to be a hairstylist because I was all into it, but decided to go to college, and because my father's like, you're going to go to school, and went to college, majored in nursing, and had no idea where my nursing career would take me. And so here we are today to talk about the whole journey. But I moved here to South Florida in 2012, which is where I met my husband, and have my bonus 3 children. So I have 1 in college, 1 in middle school, 1 in high school. I love my bonus kids and my husband and my extended family here in South Florida.
So you cross over elementary, middle, high school, college, all of them.
Yeah.
That's great. And so, it's interesting that you said you didn't really know at first. You thought about hairstyling and then you thought about nursing, but you didn't really know where that career was going to take you. And it's so interesting because I think that's one of the things that I love about what we do here at JA World. So many of our kids really have no idea of the path that they want to take, or they think that, if I go into nursing, then I have to be a nurse, right? In a hospital or in a doctor's office, right? The traditional role. Right. But you've taken that and you've done some pretty unique and innovative things with that. Yeah. And so let's talk about where your nursing career took you.
Oh goodness. So nursing actually is just one big mixing bowl. And when I initially, when I graduated nursing school, I wanted to go into labor and delivery because I love kids, right? But they said, well, no, we can't hire you in L&D, but we'll hire you in intensive care, which is what took me that path into critical care nursing. So I went to become a critical care nurse, which is my specialty, critical care and trauma. And I worked as a bedside nurse for quite a while until I went back to school and that's where I obtained my master's in health systems management. But in between that time, I worked as a research nurse. I have a lot of sprinkle to this recipe.
Yeah, there's a lot of ingredients going into this bowl.
So I worked as a research nurse for NIH, National Institutes of Health,
Yep.
and was in graduate school. And after graduate school, I went to work as a nurse consultant for the Veterans Health Administration, focused on their information technology system. That's really where I honed my skills in IT and realized that there was a huge area between like clinical and technology that I could really kind of zone in on. And so I took that opportunity and I actually moved into working as a consultant, an internal consultant for the larger EHR vendors.
Right.
So
more specifically in the technology area as
right,
a consultant?
As a clinical consultant in the technology space. So what I bring to that is my clinical background and knowledge, as a nurse, understanding the workflow of the environment, patient care and outcomes, and what really makes, patient care unique, right? And so the companies, they look for that. They want those clinicians that are able to see beyond the bedside, and so that's kind of where I fit in on there. So it was a different journey than most nurses that kind of start at the bedside and maybe transition that way. Mine kind of went a different path, which is okay because, as you can see, I'm a little bit off the beaten path.
Right. And that's a good thing sometimes.
It is
you're
good.
definitely unique.
It's worked out for me.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right. So, being unique and carving out your own path is kind of always where I've been. And so one of my ingredients to my recipe is that sprinkle of uniqueness, right? And so with that, in 2010, I started my company, AMR Healthcare Consulting. And that was when I really embraced entrepreneurship and just kind of start learning, because I didn't go to business school. I'm a nurse, right? So I really learned business being in business, and it's I'm still on the learning journey.
Right.
So
yeah, I think life is a learning journey, right?
It's a learning journey
for sure,
right?
But it's interesting because I had this conversation with my brother the other day, and I've recently started thinking about, not that I'm not planning to leave Junior Achievement because I love it here, but kind of thought about somebody in my family started a franchise in the food business, and so I've thought about doing something here in Florida with it. I would still continue to work, but I would, have a partner who would be more on the operating side. And my brother said to me, "At your age, why did you want to become an entrepreneur?" And I'm like, "Well, I thought I was in the prime of my life, first of all." But the second part is you can become an entrepreneur obviously at any age, right?
Yeah, it's never too late. Right. It's never too late to change course, And the way I look at it, you try it, it doesn't work. I mean, what can you lose, right? You just learn from everything. Is a learning journey. So I've tried different things in the past, and I'll throw a little bit into my bowl, and if it shakes up, then I'll try it, and then if it doesn't work out, then I'll pull out another ingredient and add it to the recipe, right?
Exactly.
So because it's really all about learning. The more you learn, the more you know, the more you grow. So actually just rhymed.
Yeah, that was good. We're going to have to paraphrase that one and use it. So talk about, as you began to make that decision to become an entrepreneur and use your skill set and your love of technology that you've now developed and start your own company, what were some of the thought processes? What were some of the feelings and emotions, that you went through? What were some of the things you did to prepare for that?
Well, first I thought, well, I'm just a nurse. What do I know about business? But then I let go of that and I said, well, I'm just a nurse. Let's find out what I know about this whole business thing. And I really started preparing myself by reading books and doing research, because research is my background. So, in order to get into an industry that you want to excel in, you have to obviously know the industry. You have to benchmark against what's going on out there. So I really started learning more about the technology space and how my specific expertise can fit within that space. And so by doing that, I learned there are, I do a full analysis, right, to see where the gaps are, and I understand these are specific areas that I could potentially fill in those gaps. And that's how I can hone in on the skills, because it's all about, we talk about being successful, but success is in the eye of the person, right? So we really want to be valuable, because when you become valuable, you then become a commodity, which then leads to success. So you really want to hone in on what makes you valuable, what are your unique skills and ability that you can focus on. So I tell you, in school, math is not my subject, okay? Let's just say.
You need math for
everything,
nursing,
right?
don't you?
You do. You absolutely do, pharmacology and everything in between. But you also, I play on my strengths, right? So I know math may be one of my weaknesses, but so I learn it and I develop my skills in that area, but I hone in on my strength skills. So in business, that's what you have to do. You just pull from what it is that you're really good at, and you pull from that strength, and other people can, they see that, right? And you just kind of put your weaknesses under the
or you find people that you bring on board who are good at your weaknesses, or with the areas that you don't excel in or sometimes you find people who can bring
math may not be my subject, but guess what, there's a mathematician around the corner.
Exactly.
So you bring all those things, and in business, that's what you have to do. You learn what your strengths are, you learn your value proposition, you learn what your weaknesses are, and then you use other people that can fill in those gaps.
Right. Any fear? I don't know what the investment was like financially, because I know that's something that I thought about was, okay, well, if I were to go down that road, it's a financial investment, and so am I willing to take that risk? So the risk-taking piece and the fear part, and some people, have no fear about it. Some people are anxious about it. How did any of those feelings?
Oh, always. It's a fear of failure, and it's risky. Being in business just starting a business, being in business, it's risky, and you really kind of put everything on the line. So that's what we did. My husband and I, we just kind of put everything on the line. We just go for it. And we're like, what? You only have one life, and you can try as many things you want in this one life, but if you don't try, at least try one time, right? So, and I always think about it, well, what's the worst that can happen, right? You try, you go out there, you give it your all, and if it doesn't work, you try something else.
Somebody said something interesting, a CEO in the community that I was with yesterday, and he said, you come up with your plan, right? And then you execute your plan, and then you adjust your plan, because the plan, first of all, never goes according to plan. Or 6 months to a year later, the environment changes or something else changes where you have to adjust, right? And so it's that constant adjustment.
Constant cycle. And in my field, I look at my life as the system development life cycle. We do our data gathering and analysis. We build a prototype. We kind of test it out. You do your QA and your testing, and then you implement it, and you hope everything goes well. But then if it doesn't go well, then you go back to your methodology and you adjust. And then you try to optimize it for your environment. So your life is just that whole system development life cycle until it just works out for you.
Right.
And that's how I really kind of live my life.
So now you work with healthcare systems, I'm assuming physicians and so forth, just here locally in Broward or in state, national?
So local, national, and international. We've been fortunate enough to work with we work with hospitals, physician practices, healthcare entities in general, both from a government, from commercial. We work with laboratories, pharmacies. So any healthcare entity that actually takes care of patients is what we work with, because our whole mission is to transform healthcare with the use of technology and to help improve patient care. And so that's really what we strive for. With me being a nurse, and everything is really patient-centered, and making sure that the technologies that we build and that we design and that we help implement with other facilities helps to improve patient care and improve the outcomes, because in the end, it's population health. It's health for all.
And that's so important today. You see all of the hospitals and physicians' offices and practices they're all focusing on patient care.
Yeah. And it's not just like a local, it's from like over in the Philippines or over in Singapore or in, Brazil. It's the same issues across the globe with healthcare. So technology allows us that reach and visibility to be able to reach and touch more lives. So
yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, in healthcare, they're patients, but we all have patients, right? Depending on what our business is, we all have clients,
right?
And so client services and making sure we take care of our clients. So you're helping your clients take care of their patients.
Exactly.
What are some of the things or strategies that you use to get new clients, and then to take care of those clients and deliver what they need to them, so that hopefully they become repeat clients, right?
Well, one thing that's worked for AMR Healthcare is to be genuine and you be unique. And then what helps us stand out is to develop that value proposition. So what we can bring to an organization, we're not just like a technology company, but we are a healthcare technology company that focuses on developing software for healthcare industry and then also providing solutions. So what we found that works for us is to drive that niche home, because there are a lot of technology companies. There's thousands of software development companies and solution consulting companies out here, but why pick AMR Healthcare, right? Well, companies we work with, they select our services because we bring a unique factor that they may be missing or to complement what they have. And with that being very patient-centered. And we're able to go out and market our services to hospitals and healthcare organizations across the globe with that unique value proposition. So, and we've had a lot of success. We don't win everything, but that's part of life, right?
Part of life,
right?
And it's interesting because with our business, right, a big part of my job is to go out and raise the funds to run the programs that we have here at Junior Achievement. And, like you said, you don't ask, you don't know, and sometimes we get a no, but I'm happy to say a lot of times we get a yes.
If you don't knock on the door, you never know.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that. So, it's interesting. I always say that there's usually one main ingredient to most recipes, right? If I'm making a meatloaf, right, my chopped meat is my main recipe, my main ingredient. If you had to name one ingredient that has been key to your success, personally, professionally, as a woman, I want to talk a little bit about that too after this, but what's that one ingredient that makes you, Aliya, successful?
I think for me, I throw in a little sprinkle of determination, and then I add a little dash of perseverance, and then I throw in a couple sprinkles of my little sparkle personality, and then I add in a couple spoonfuls of motivation, all these things that add to my recipe bowl. And you always can throw in a couple dashes of knowledge and expertise and know-how. And then also just a couple nuggets.
These are the nuts.
You really just have to throw a couple nuggets in of just uniqueness and just being, just owning yourself, right? Because people relate to people who can relate to people. And what I find that works for me in business is just be who you are. Be who you are. Be confident. Throw a dash of confidence, right?
Yeah.
And is our bowl full yet?
Pretty much. We're at the bottom of the recipe page. Be who you are. So which one? Because those are all amazing and necessary ingredients.
Very much so.
Or for most of us. Which one is the one that stands out for you? You've mentioned, and if I had to guess, or if I were to guess just by our conversation so far, you've mentioned being unique, unique selling proposition, adding that sparkle of personality. You've mentioned that now 5 or 6 times, right? So I can usually zone in.
On what?
Listen, right? If we listen carefully, we can usually zone in.
Right.
Like, that's the one thing that I continue to hear you talk about. So how, as someone who is an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, what would you tell our students in our entrepreneurial program about how to become unique, how to develop their unique selling proposition for them personally, right? Because before they can even do it for their business, you have to do it for yourself. I think.
Do. You have to really zone in on yourself, and you really have to understand, what am I good at, you know, and kind of what makes me unique. Because why be in the crowd when you could stand out from the crowd? Because everybody sees gray, but I want to look, you know, red, right? And so you have to really find what makes you who you are and what you can really bring to the table to have someone say, well, I'm going to pick her over her. You know, you could wear the same outfit, you can go to the same school, have the same body of knowledge, but what makes you unique, right? And so I really, for me, I like to say that I bring a sense of like, okay, yeah, I'm a nurse, right? But there's so many nurses out here in the world, but what makes me a unique nurse? Well, not only am I a nurse, but I'm also a software developer, I'm an entrepreneur, you know, I'm an intellect, I'm a thought leader, and I like to hone in on those skills and what makes me unique. Well, you know, I've worked at several organizations, national, local, international, and so if you're just looking for a nurse, then fine, you can find a nurse. But if you're looking for a nurse with a little bit of sparkle,
we have to do some arts and crafts, I think.
Who happens to be an entrepreneur, who happens to understand both front end and back end of software development, technology, and how to, you know, merge in the intersection of clinical, then okay, now you're looking for me, right? So with the students, like yesterday, I was over at MSHS Technical working with the students, which I love. And so, you know, I talked to them about their business model. And so what makes your business model unique as opposed to some of the other students that are developing? You know, you need yours to stand out. So think about some of the design, because I work with organizations on designing their software. And we call it customizing. So we customize the software to fit your needs, because you can purchase an out-of-the-box solution, right?
But it may not always work.
It may not always work. So you have to figure out your practice and your workflow, and then you take that solution and you customize it to fit you, and then that's when you become who you are, and it helps to build up your confidence, so when you walk in the room, you can own it.
Own it. I love it.
You have to own who you are, own your uniqueness, right?
Absolutely. And you know, it's interesting because you can be really unique, you can be really confident, and you can be a lot of those things. But I think one of the things I found is I've met some people who were all those things, but they weren't telling their story.
Got to tell your story.
Right? And then I meet somebody like you, who I have a funny feeling tells her story, right?
I'm gonna tell it.
And owns it and goes out there. And so what are some of the ways that you do that? How do you tell your story? Do you do it through marketing, through branding, through being with in rooms of certain people? I'm sure you have some strategies you've used. Well,
you know, I use a lot of different platforms to tell my unique story. And one of the areas that I'm really passionate about is, you know, education. So I speak at a lot of conferences, but local, national, international conferences on topics that I am particularly an expert at, which is technology and healthcare. Also working with great organizations like Junior Achievement, right? You know, Junior Achievement is a really good organization. I was actually in Junior Achievement when I was in high school, but it's really good to network with other entrepreneurs and business professionals, and so you never know who you meet. Every person you talk to has a story, and their story is a compilation of stories from you know, where they come from. So I use every opportunity, you know, social media, networking events, every opportunity to tell your story, because all you need is one person to listen.
Right. And then they'll tell one person, and they'll tell one person. Remember that commercial?
Exactly.
I think it was L'Oreal or something had that commercial.
Exactly.
Yes, I think so important telling our story. We talk a lot with young people, and I remember I had the honor and the pleasure to create a women's leadership program in one of my previous positions. And one of our sessions, and something we talked about often was personal branding, right? And telling that story, but also being true to that brand.
Absolutely.
Right? So you can go out and tell your story, but then you have to live it.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to live it because, you know, there's one thing to come in here with this pink suit on and tell a story, but then when you get out of here, like, what's your real story? You know, I'm all about the real. Like, you have to just kind of own who you are, right? Own your style, your uniqueness, your smart, your creativity, your knowledge, and just kind of tell that story, not somebody else's story. Don't be a copycat.
Right. Exactly.
Because
and then go out and live it.
Go out and live it, because, you know, that's what business is about. Business is really built on, that's why we have small businesses, and you know, everyone has something they can offer. You know, otherwise you're just kind of copying after everybody else's business.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, I love, I really, really enjoy when we have women on the show, obviously being a woman CEO. And because I think it's so important to tell the story of women entrepreneurs, because so many of our young girls don't think they can go out and be business owners, right? And so they need to hear stories like yours and like mine, and people who make it to, you know, to certain levels. And they may not all want to be an entrepreneur, they may not want to be a CEO, but they need to know that they have unique abilities that they can use and be successful in whatever they choose.
Want to be. Exactly, right? Because that's really what it's about. And when I love working with the kids. I work with Junior Achievement, I work with some of the other organizations with children, and it's really about, like, for me, because of the area that I work in, oftentimes I'm one of many, right? And so I use that to an advantage, not really to a disadvantage, because if I am the only minority woman in the room, they'll know I'm in the room, right? Or if I'm just the only woman in the room, they're still going to know I'm in the room. So, like, for girls, you know, it's all about teaching them confidence and showing them that you can, for anyone, kids, boys or girls, you can do whatever it is you want to do. You make your mind up, you write out your plan, you add your little ingredients, you mix your bowl, and then if that cookie doesn't come out nice and crispy, then you throw it away
start
and start
all
over.
over. That's right.
You're right.
Well, speaking of that, we're going to read your recipe. And some of the things, the ingredients that you mentioned, right, have contributed to your success. And so we have be unique. You have talked unlimited about being unique and finding your who you are, figuring out who you are, what are your skills, what are the strengths that you bring to the table. I love that. Always keep learning, right? Continuing to learn and grow. Do your research, and research applies to every part of our life. We have to know what we're getting into and understand our environment before we enter it. Become valuable, right? Make yourself and your company valuable to your clients or to the community at large. Hone in on your strengths, which I love. You know, many people sometimes spend time working on their weaknesses, but as we said, we can bring people in to complement us. Right, and so we don't have to struggle through math and algebra. Go for it. You got to go for it. Otherwise, you'll never know, right? Got to knock on that door. Be genuine. Have determination, perseverance, a little bit of extra personality, a sparkle, right? Never hurt anybody. Motivation, confidence, and just be who you are. And so that's a pretty amazing recipe, and it's obviously worked for you. I do want to thank you. I love that you were an alumni. And so I am going to do a shameless plug. We do have an event coming up on November 23rd, so I hope you'll join us.
There, yes.
It's our first distinguished alumni breakfast. Our keynote speaker is Donna Shalala, who our current congresswoman, who is a JA alumni and talks a lot about how these programs shaped her future and her life. And then we'll be honoring Alan Levan, the chairman of BBX Capital. And he will also talk about how JA was instrumental for his youth, and then also even as an adult, how he stayed in touch with us. So for those of you who are alumni or are not, and you'd like to come out for our breakfast, we'd love to have you. Join us. Check it out on the website, which is jasouthflorida.org. And thank you so much for being here. It was absolutely a pleasure to meet you. We definitely have to have you talk to our girls.
Of course.
Come out and share your story with them. I really want them to hear. We recently, actually last year, started a girls scholarship fund specifically for young girls who go through our JA Fellows Entrepreneurial
Right.
and our JA Career Bound program. So there is definitely a need out there to make sure that they know all of the career pathways for them, and that we give them an opportunity to pursue them. So
That would be nice.
thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
Thank you for
me.
watching.
Yeah.
If you didn't get a chance today, it will be posted on Facebook and Instagram. And then on Friday, you can listen to the podcast on several channels, and we'll put that out on social media, including iTunes. So thanks for being with us, and let's get cooking.
All right.